At She Can, we tell women's stories. We interview women from all over the world to build up the largest library of women role models because it's easier to be what you can see. And I'm excited to talk to Lyndsay Lucero today. Lyndsay, welcome. We have been in the making for a very long time because my partner in my non-for-profit, Jenna, has been meaning to put us in touch for a very long time. You're the founder of Baxley Goods, and you are a passionate advocate for the climate and meaningful design. You were an award-winning digital designer for the world's biggest brands, who then decided to become an entrepreneur to make and sell bags that get better with age, and you repair them too. So tell us a bit more about yourself.
Well, um, all of that is true. It's sounds so lovely put together like that. I believe in everything being meaningful. For me, I have a very hard time with any kind of waste of things that just get thrown into the bin, waste of time and efficiency, waste of just like even like small talk, I have a bit of a hard time with. So I really like having intentionality and that meaningfulness in everything. And I suppose that probably is very shaped by, or the reason why I chose to be in the career of user experience for many years before I began Baxley Goods. And with user experience, for those who might not know, it's taking well, typically this is in the digital world, taking a complex online environment and making it as easy to get for somebody from point A to point B and enjoyable ideally as well. So it's taking a lot of information and making it very easy to understand and get through.
Mm.
Yeah.
Lindsay, yes, and you know, and you say that yourself, you're a really strategic and holistic thinker that loves efficiency, attention to detail. So tell us a bit more about your journey. How did you then become from a digital designer who was all about that user experience to thinking,
Mm.
I want to produce something, I want to make something real. It coincides with your motherhood journey, doesn't it? I know you have a story to tell there, Lindsay. So tell us a bit more about that journey.
So I had been in digital design, working for others for maybe 15 plus years, so a full career. And I then had kids and juggled in those years, having that career. As I said, I'm taking very complex websites. So these are very large organizations that I worked for typically. But I had these kids and my husband, we were living in Brighton at the time, and my husband was commuting the 2 hours to London each way. And that's where all the juicy projects were for me as well. But there was absolutely no part of my vision of my ideal future that involved both parents being completely absent from our children's children's life. And so during this time, I was trying to find projects, and I found a few kind of temporary gigs, but I felt like there was something that maybe I could create myself. So just totally thinking laterally, like what are the skills that I have? I can problem solve, I can do complex things, and make them easy. What am I passionate about? I'm passionate about the environment. I'm passionate about women's advocacy. I'm passionate about, about all these different areas. Is there a way of combining these things and the items that I'm not so good at? I couldn't really figure this out, but I actually had a whole workshop. I took my skills and I did sticky notes trying to figure out what am I going to do with my future. But then what happened though to actually change this though is that the zip on my backpack broke. And it was just a secondhand bag that my husband had given me for free, like from like his work had given him for free. And I've been using it for a while, but it didn't have the functionality I needed. I would wear dresses to work sometimes or not have pockets, and I needed to get to my phone or my keys very easily. And I spent hours, days looking for a suitable bag to replace it. And then finally I was like, this is it. And the total light bulb moment of I'm going to make bags. I have no idea how to do anything in manufacturing and physical product design or fashion. But I knew about utility and functionality, accessibility, and I could do that with all the kind of love of the environment and sustainability and responsibility
Yeah.
that I could. So that's kind of how I decided to go into the world of bags without any knowledge at all.
And you make these really They're beautiful bags, they're super functional, they're sustainably made, and they get better with age, and you repair them too. So you have a whole cycle of your bags, which is very contrary to what most other people do that produce things, and when they break, they want you to buy a new one. So tell us about that.
Well, it's not an easy decision. I mean, this is not the business most savvy decision. It's completely functional, but it's not that massive growth model. It just the two can't reconcile in the best way. But the whole purpose for why I created this and just focusing on the purpose, it is to create this relationship. And so I'm able to continually expand my product line and the different categories. And there's always different types of bags that might suit people's needs. So they might need to continue with me as an audience. But for me, it is just as much about this longevity and being able to grow the company in other ways that might be supporting them and offering them things that are perhaps not as material, but maybe in terms of community and growth. These are the kind of paths that I'm looking forward to exploring in the future.
Lyndsay, so tell us where you're at now with Baxley Goods. How many bags do you produce? How does that work? Tell us a bit more about Baxley Goods.
So Baxley, we don't have a huge output because we do manufacture here in the UK. We currently manufacture in Sussex. I'm looking this year, and I'm in conversation right now with bringing this to Somerset as well, so that we have one place for creating custom bags and limited run bags, and then using the other facility for creating the standard kind of core items.
Mhm.
This particular year, I'm really looking forward to using a lot of my experience over the last few years to kind of bring a lot more joy into the bags. Not the bags were joyless before, but just be creating things that really make people stop and just bring a smile to their face.
Yeah.
So I'm having a lot of fun with patterns and custom items.
Yeah, sounds amazing. So, what is your main motivator, Lindsay, going forwards? You've had those different careers. You're
Hmm.
also a mom. What is your main motivator?
I mean, motivator. Truly it is the environment. And I mean that I grew up on a farm, and I don't know if that, I'm sure that plays a part of this and my connection and desire to always just be outside and to be aware of the seasons, and if it's raining more, to actually be in the mud and be conscious of that and its impact on food chain and all these other things. So the environment really at the cost of my own business escalation, and massive growth, it really is a genuine motivator. I really do want to help people to understand the importance of every decision they make in a purchase, that if they're buying an item, that it really should be an item that they want to keep as long as is possible for that particular item and its own lifespan. Ideally to repair as well, but just to change our own relationships with it. It's a really, really big goal, but it is beautiful, the emails that I'll get from people and the kind of awareness and the different mentalities that they're bringing to their new purchases. So it is
Yeah.
actually slowly
And I
working.
and I think, Lindsay, it's so important to be those role models, right? Because
Mm.
other people will see that and they are able to emulate it because they've seen it, and it's easier to be something that you've seen before. And I think, thank God, there are people who are producing goods with this in mind. And so it's not anymore perpetuating the throwaway culture that we have, been celebrating since the, middle of the last century, really. Um, so, what are your top qualities, Lindsay, do you think, that really serve you every day?
Mm. My ability to see the big picture. And again, I think this comes down from a user experience background.
Mm,
Just trying to understand what is the bigger why, what is the bigger question here that I'm trying to solve,
mm,
we are trying to solve and get to the bottom of, whether that's specifically in terms of a user and a customer and what they're trying to, what is that issue they're dealing with, or in a greater sense of the direction of the company in terms of marketing this year. Where can we expand and look laterally in a different way?
mm.
So I think probably that is that, and patience.
Yeah,
I have thankfully a very patient person. So just being able to see through the timelines that sometimes are needed in small batch or yeah, more ethically driven companies.
Yeah. Lindsay, so give us some top tips. I know that you had one of your role was being a caregiver for your child. I mean, we are moms and we are moms obviously as caregivers, but you've had a sick child and you had extra responsibilities. How did you combine all of that? And give us some tips on how you maintained your resilience and how you were able to keep that picture going and all the different roles aligned.
So, shortly into, well, after COVID began, my son started to have seizures, and so he wound up having a whole kind of collection of epilepsies and had one seizure or type of epilepsy that was seizing every 20 seconds. And so for 2 years that lasted. And although it wasn't the kind of overt seizures that would require that level of attention, they were continually going and had a profound impact on his everyday well-being and the amount of support we needed to give him.
Mm,
Now, during this time, I was his primary caregiver, and my husband just needed to be the primary breadwinner at this point. So
mm,
I was very proud, or I am very proud, but it was very difficult to keep Baxley going during this time. This was not something that I was sharing with really anyone outside of my circle. I was just trying to keep my head afloat
yeah.
with a very obscure illness that
Mm,
there weren't support groups for either.
mm,
Um, but it was a really interesting time. It was one where I began to really focus on the times when there could be joy and when we could insert that into our lives. So really beginning to do just a lot of road trips and camper vans and garden parties and just the things that we could do in the time and the resources that we had. And there were such beautiful times. I mean, such unbelievably difficult times. And running the business during this was a lesson in inconsistency. I would launch an item and then just not be able to follow through with marketing and everything that needed to happen immediately after the launch because he was well right beforehand, and then that just coincided, and that was incredibly difficult. There were a lot of missed opportunities over these years, but as I can only imagine that hopefully any parent, if there's any chance of a choice, I was able to be with my son and helping him.
yeah.
Um, and I have a daughter too, so supporting them both. Anyways, but what was amazing as a result of this, though, were thinking through the bigger lessons and or again, the bigger picture actually is more what I mean to say. I started to I created this folder, and I don't really remember why I did this, maybe because I was just seeking out anything to give me a bit of happiness during this time. But I started to take screenshots of anything that just filled me with happiness. So maybe it was a picture of bunting, maybe it was this amazing mountaintop somewhere, or a beautiful like a ceramic dish or something. And I put them in this folder that I called Joy. And this folder just I continue to keep it, but it was really like this foundation during this time. And my son's now been clear for a full year and a half almost of this epilepsy, which is extraordinarily
Amazing.
amazing. Yes, amazing, amazing. And he's his happy, beautiful self right now, doing his own thing. Finally able to like have a life. And I like in this last year, he was in his own kind of recovery, and I was in my own recovery as well as a, well, still supporter, but like, just not needing to be in that alert stage at the same time.
Yeah.
Um, but so at the end of this past year, I realized that this joy, why is this not a keystone in what I do every single day with Baxley? Because everybody has been through a hard time at some point. Maybe it's not epilepsy, but I mean, the last few years have been a really rocky one globally in every kind of possible way. And why not have joy whenever we can? So right now I've changed the whole kind of platform of the company. I feel like it's a whole rebirth of the business. And so I think, as I mentioned, I'm trying to bring that into the products and the way that I'm marketing and every element of it. But in terms of the original question, like how can someone juggle, how can a woman juggle parenting, illness, and business ownership? It's not easy, and it was family and not sharing for me, not sharing this news with everyone helped. I was able to keep from from sobbing or having people remind me of this when I left my boundaries. And then the people that I did include knew everything and were my rocks. So this was, I suppose, how I got through it.
Yeah, you kept it tight to your chest. Yeah. Yeah, I understand that. I think I resonate with that deeply. Lindsay, thank you for that. So, what are you most proud of to date? What do you consider your biggest achievements? We've heard about your challenges and your struggles and the
Yeah.
pitfalls and how you overcame them. What are the achievements?
It's so funny. I wonder if this is a female male thing or how it breaks down, but I feel that we so often don't celebrate these wins because it comes so gradually usually. I mean, sure, I'm sure that some people do have those kind of like home run successes, but for so many of us we just slowly do that thing and then the next thing and the next thing without really kind of being like blown away. As I said, I feel like I'm rebirthing the company right now, relaunching it. And this is right now when I am so excited about growing the visibility of Baxley. So bringing it to a few retail stores that really will be hand selected, but then getting into PR and beginning to grow the company in a, yeah, far more consistent manner in all respects.
Which is super exciting, Lindsay. Thank you so much for talking to me today, for recording your story, and for talking about all the different roles that you inhabit as a mom, as an entrepreneur, as a citizen of the world.
Thank you, Stephanie. I really have enjoyed meeting you.